Hey guys, as always, thanks for stopping by. Where do your constitutionally protected civil liberties come to an end and gun confiscation begins? Well, let's talk about that. Hey, if at any point today that you stand with me, I'd really appreciate a big thumbs up. It sends a huge message to YouTube, so thanks. I've been gone all week long. I was in Missouri hanging out with my friends at CMMG. I got a free shirt, can you tell? I'll have some great footage to show y'all as soon as I get it edited all down. But if you want to see some cool guns, I go full auto over on Instagram. You can check it out there. And in my travels, I was in not one, but two international airports. Fantastic. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. How does the coronavirus affect you and your ability to exercise your constitutional freedoms? And at the end, I'm going to bring this all back to, yep, you guessed it, your ability to protect yourself and your family. Now, I don't want to pretend that the COVID-19 is the only thing going on this week. It's not. A DC guy was killed this week because of a red flag law. There's also some good news coming out of Pennsylvania. And Maryland is in a fight right now. Connecticut is also in a fight. And Joe Biden took a break from sniffing children to cuss at a citizen and threaten to take away his AR-14. It was a crazy week. I do want you to check out the Pennsylvania good news. I'll put a link to that one right down below. But of course, the main topic of conversation is the coronavirus, as the nation has spiraled into mass hysteria over toilet paper. Governments are taking action and making decisions. Stuff is happening at the city, county, state, and federal level. Now, all this week, quarantines have been enacted. Mandatory rules of who can assemble where and when. Bans on gatherings, bans on travel, quarantine notices, mandatory isolation, and massive public closures. San Francisco is limiting the number of people who are allowed to gather in one place. Washington State is doing the same. They're setting a cap on how many free citizens can gather. I know that some of you already thought to yourself, hey, I don't give a rat's patootie about what those nuts on the left coast do. Well, it's happening in the flyover states as well. While I was writing this script, I was going to highlight some quarantine mandates in Kentucky and Virginia, a few other places. But the more I researched, it spun out of control. Stuff is happening in all 50 states. It's here and it's real. One of the great triumphs of our Constitution is the guaranteed the right to peaceful assembly. Freedom to assemble is a human right, a political right, and a civil liberty. It's a big deal. It's so important that it's our First Amendment right. It's why they wrote it down first. And yet, as of now, as of today, the right to peaceful assembly has literally been taken away from citizens. And we all sit back in silence, gathering toilet paper and watching the news. I'm guilty too. Now, I know that we need to be safe and to get the whole pandemic thing. I get it. I get that whole pandemic thing. But hear me out on this one. Maybe this is a little bit too bold, but perhaps the media has been a little out of control on this one, maybe? As of today, I'm filming this on late Friday afternoon, there's been 41 confirmed deaths in the U.S. from the virus. That's not even a rounding error for national causes of death. Last year alone, there were 2,500 deaths in the U.S. from constipation. That tidbit is from the CDC. Oh, and if they really wanted to help Americans' health, they could stop packing high fructose corn syrup into literally every food that we give to children. Okay, let's talk about the obvious but. All snark aside, yes, I know there's a real situation, a real virus floating around. And yes, we need to take steps to stop the spread. So when we talk about the right of civil liberties, like the freedom to assemble, people will invariably say, but. Yes, we've got the right to assemble, but come on, Johnny, there's sickness in the air. And that, my friends, is the problem. When we have something as important, as precious as our constitutional rights, we add a but to it. But there's sickness going around. I'm pro-gun, but. This but is how we got into the abhorrent Patriot Act in 2001. 9/11 happened in September, and before October was even over, the Patriot Act was voted on without even being read by many members of Congress, and today it's still used to violate American civil liberties. But I'm not a terrorist. I've got nothing to hide. Yeah, I remember hearing that one regularly, but. And now we've got the NSA listening to us right now. And before y'all start typing away down below that parts of the Patriot Act have expired, well, go check out the U.S. Freedom Act of 2015. The NSA still has the ability to listen in on us. Hey NSA, if you're listening, from my cold, dead hands. All right, now catch this next part. For time's sake, I only highlighted one aspect of the coronavirus hype and governmental reaction of banning people from freedom to assembly. And they're using martial law to enforce all of that. There's a lot more going on. I only highlighted one thing. Many more civil liberties are being denied, and that's why we need to be vigilant. Now, martial law is a dangerous and slippery slope. When FEMA steps in or they enact emergency guidelines, laws, your rights come to an end. And I'm not being dramatic there. There's oodles of cases that I could present from recent history, but let me give you one big example. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans the last week of August. The storm proper was over on about August 31st, and within a week, 1 week, gun confiscations began. Local law enforcement, state law enforcement, and federal agents began literally rounding up citizens' firearms. The New York Times used the word scoured, that armed officers and agents scoured the city to confiscate guns from citizens. Now, we're not talking about some moron out in the street waving his problem solver in the air and threatening people. Yeah, that guy should probably lose his high point for a few hours. Instead, they went door to door. People were literally minding their own business, holed up in their homes with water and flashlights and provisions and first aid kits, trying to, survive. And they were disarmed, minding their own business. Just type Hurricane Katrina gun confiscation into Google. It's all documented. And that's where I want to leave you guys and gals for today. As our current governments take reactionary measures to protect us, be watchful. Stay vigilant. It's not just your health at risk. It's your God-given rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, what do you think? Leave me a comment right down below and let's have a conversation. As always, thanks for stopping by. I'm Johnny. Let freedom ring. Bye.